You know, we get so many emails or messages from guys and gals saying that they're either wanting to or actually planning their first elk hunt. The first response from us is always, man, that's awesome. The second response is, be careful. Once you do this, you'll change your life forever. Trust me, y'all, that's straight up gospel right there. It can change your life, bring some things into focus, or hit you over the head with things that you need to change. On tonight's show, inspired by a story from one of our listeners, we talk about many ways elk hunting can affect your life and you as a person. That topic, along with our shout outs, live viewer questions, and questions from our ElkBros mailbox. So, my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillian. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, your host for your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas. Been a bumpy ride here today. And coming from you from New Mexico, Joe Gillia and Leroy Chavez, your elk hunting coaches. And none other from Katy, Texas, one of, and maybe the leader of the Venezuelan mafia, Luis Gonzalez. But it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Right. And since I'm in the show, it's me.
Hey, good to see everybody. Before we get going, man, nobody has seen what's been going on in the background here. We've been trying to go live on YouTube. Gilbert is in Springs, Texas, where he just had an incredible storm came through. About what time, bud?
It came through at 4 o'clock, and we've been without power since 4 o'clock this afternoon, and it just came back on. I mean, if y'all knew what we did is I drove up to the Walmart and got me an internet signal. And you asked the guys, I was shooting from inside my truck.
Yes,
and,
he was.
Had it going on. My wife texted me and said, hey, the power just came back on. We had a tree down over a power line here by my house. And so Joe had heck trying to get the Facebook or the YouTube live going. So I beat tracks back home here. I don't live but about 4 minutes from that Walmart. So I beat tracks back here at the house, and here we are.
Yeah, our goal was to go live on YouTube tonight. We announced it to everybody, but man, when I don't know if it's because of storms out there, because most of these major lines go through some of these towns. You don't know if storms have caused a problem or if just YouTube's tripping out. Apologies to all you guys out there that tried to get on this evening, but now you're just going to be able to hear it fresh on a Tuesday, so we won't have to worry about that part of it, man. But I tell you, Gilbert, it was pretty cool to see you in your truck doing that and everything, you know.
Dedication
right there, man. Oh, let's rock and roll. We got some stuff.
And what's cool is technology's evolved to where you can make that happen off your, I did that off my smartphone, just having a hotspot connection there, and ran my computer off my inverter that's in my F-250 Ford truck, and little plug there for Ford. At the end of the day, we're going to get it done whether it hair lip the governor.
Well, before we roll down, start getting started, Luis, how are you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, guys. How about you? I'm, I guess I kind of told you guys, work has been crazy for the last couple of weeks, and it's I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it tonight again, but so happens that I was able to crank it up and get it done and able to join.
Boy.
So. Hey, shoot, man.
We're proud of you, man.
Yeah, no doubt, because I know 2 weeks ago, we didn't know whether we were all going to have jobs.
Right.
It's really been tough down here in the oil field community here in Texas and surrounding areas from West Texas, New Mexico. I mean, everybody's feeling the pinch, but we start seeing a little light at the end of the tunnel. So we hope this thing will turn around. We keep praying for our brothers and sisters that are on the bricks looking for something.
And Chad, what's the Albuquerque update, man?
Well, it's daily grind, trying to get back in shape, and otherwise everything's okay. I can't really complain.
Look fantastic, Chav. Got good color, man. Look good.
Well, actually, I put his photograph up for the last podcast, man, that we did, and God dang, man, people, Chav, what's up with you, man? You're just like a cult leader or something, man. People are like, "Where's Chav? We love Chav." And the guy saying he's a rock star, man. I'm like,
exactly.
You don't hardly say a word, and he's a rock star.
Hell of a lot more Chav and less of us. Probably a good thing.
But you know what? Whenever he does say something, it matters.
E.F.
Hutton, like
right?
E.F. Hutton,
it makes
baby.
a difference.
I don't know about that. I just feel I'm Forrest Gump. I'm in the right place at the right time. And
life is like a box of chocolates.
Just pure wisdom. Pure wisdom.
Dude, if it's all about being in the right place at the right time, well, I'll take it. So,
no doubt.
Yeah, you ought to see too on the academy. We're putting it together. Special sections all through the academy is little spots that says words of wisdom, and it has Chav's picture right there, and it's called Chav's perspective on different points in there, man. And he's been cranking out this stuff, and yeah. You've been working hard on that, Chav. Looks good, man.
Thank you. Yeah, the whole thing's looking good.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to see it. I know you guys are hard at it all the time. When we're doing our thing, you guys are doing yours, and it's good. I won't be surprised at all how good it's going to turn out, because I've seen what you guys have done when y'all have had a little bit of time. So, I mean, if you guys haven't seen our webpage, y'all need to go check it out. It's impressive for sure. Well, guys, you know what time it is. It's time for our ElkBros shout-outs. If you're new to our show, these are just shout-outs of a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week.
Yes, sir. ElkBros shout-out to those grinders giving us reviews first. Oh, Madrid. I wish I knew where you were from, man. I don't think it's Madrid, Spain, so either it's a name or it's a place, right? Joel from Germantown, Wisconsin. Joel knew how to do it right there. And we have Marilyn Kent and our brother Zach Fisher in Pennsylvania. And buddy, Zach is calling out for some more Ornelas Unleashed.
Well, look, in the intro, y'all gotta know I pulled a fast one on Joe. So I mean, we couldn't air it, but I guarantee you, if y'all check out the intro, you'll see something in there that there's a little line that I hit him with, and man, he had to stop all production. I'm telling you, it was a big
he
deal,
rocked the production tonight, man. We had to keep that off.
Well, I had to kind of keep it light. Everybody was kind of charged up from not having real good technical advanced things going on for us here, and so I figured I better break up the monotony and have a little fun.
It got broke up. It hit you in the face just like a crappy mop, didn't it?
Exactly, boy.
Joe's reaction was like, Gilbert, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think my voice actually came out like that, huh? It sounded like one of them daytime, Gilbert.
Sound like a Muppet.
Also a huge welcome and thank you to our newest ElkBros Patreon members, Michael Long and Jeffrey Evanson. Guys, thank you so much for helping us to keep the lights on and share our passion with others. So I'm going to start it out with the shout outs. Our top listening city. Now, guys, you're about to hear an incredible story. So put your elbows on your seat right there. Part of Washington's Tri-Cities metro area, our top listening city this week sits on the west side of the Columbia River between the mouths of the Yakima and the Snake River. With that much water, there's going to be water sports. They host the annual hydroplane racing at the Water Follies event on the Columbia River. And it was a day in 1996 during this very same hydroplane event that the history of this area changed forever. Leave it up to two local college students, Will Thomas, then 21, and Dave, I believe that's DC, were trying to tube down the banks of the river to sneak into the racing event. Now, does this sound like college dudes, y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They done figured out how to get in.
Right.
Here. So, beer in hand, they waded into the water, and then Thomas stubbed his toe about 10 feet offshore. He says, "Hey, we have a human head," he joked. So he thrust his hand about 1.5 feet underwater and grabbed what he felt was a big rock. But y'all, it wasn't a rock. It was, in fact, a human skull.
Cool.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
Thomas and Deasy believed they had found a victim of murder or suicide. During the search that ensued, a local anthropologist found almost a complete skeleton of what he figured to be a 100-year-old white man. After sending specimens off for carbon dating, the results came back and the Kennewick man was born. The skeleton was dated at 9,200 years old, making it the oldest nearly complete skeleton ever found in North America, right here where the Kennewick man was born in Kennewick, Washington.
Wow, dude, that's one of the coolest ones we've had, Joe.
Yeah, cool
9,200 years old.
9,200. And what was amazing about this was the timing, because had this happened a month earlier or even a month later, this discovery would have never happened, because what happened was the water of the Columbia had risen. They had some major flood stuff that came through and ate away at the shoreline, dislodging the skull and the bones to fall down into the water.
Oh, so it was above them.
Yeah, it was above and
in.
right. When it washed away, when that flood came through, it washed it down, so it was sitting right on the bottom.
I wonder how much sediment was sitting on top of them, whether it was a couple of feet of sediment on top of it or what. That's wild.
Well, it was over on, like it was in the shoreline, ended up on the bottom. The guy's wading out in the river. Yeah, the funny part of the story was, I didn't tell it in the beginning, is that when Thomas found this skull, they were more interested in the girls during the race. So they went and stashed the skull in they stashed the skull in the brush until the event was over, and then went back and got it, put it in a bucket, and took it to the local sheriff.
Gotta get your priorities right. I mean, skeleton been there for 9,000 years.
Yeah, ain't going nowhere. What's another 6 hours?
What's another 6 hours, man? It's been there
we're
for 9,000 years.
Gonna go talk to some honeys up there on the bank.
That's right.
Yeah, and the thing is one of the things was in the hip bone was a flint projectile spearhead from where he had actually been stabbed in the hip at some point.
Huh.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Oh, caveman and got speared with a flint.
Wow.
Wow.
Unbelievable. There was a lot of controversy that went along with this. If you guys are interested, look up the Kennewick man, because it led a 20-year controversy between science and the Native American community that was really, really cool to read about and listen, man. So, yeah.
You betcha.
How about that, man?
Awesome.
Pretty cool. All right, man. Chosen to become the permanent state capital in 1805 with a population under 8,000 residents, it is the smallest capital city in the United States. In fact, it is the only state capital without a McDonald's. So for those of you in need of a Big Mac, they would have to drive almost 5 miles away to get one. So, but what they do have here is so incredible. They have covered bridges in and around the area, which is a photographer's dream. And the maple syrup produced here is breakfast and candy stick gold. And for you elk hunters wanting to get in shape, here's a challenge for you. Go hike the 12-mile Camel's Hump. And if someone asks why the heck you did it, tell them the ElkBros sent you.
ElkBros sent you.
That's right. Buddy. And Montpelier, Vermont.
How do you say that word?
Montpelier.
Montpelier.
I was like, Mount Pelier? And he's like,
good enough to me, Joe.
Montpelier.
Montpelier.
Montpelier, Vermont.
He proceeded to tell me it's French, Joe. Montpelier. I was like, well, excusez-moi.
Yeah.
Je ne parle pas français parce que c'est très difficile.
J'en parle tant à chacun à la
All right. Chad, you're up next. Let's stop the monotony.
Okay, I was going to say in the Andy Griffin show they called it Montpelier.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll
There
see.
you go.
Okay, up next, our next top listening city is located in Idaho's Treasure Valley, a small town but only 45 minutes from downtown Boise. It is known for its golf courses, spas, and green spaces like Riverside Eagle Island State Park, with hiking trails, a swimming beach, and a zip line course. Here's the coolest part about this Idaho town. It is still one of those places where people wave, look you in the eye, give a tip of their hat, and say hello, even though they don't know you. You can still find friendly. Oh, and if you are into something different, you can drive towards Boise and stay in a giant potato turned into a hotel.
Yeah, they have
Eagle, Idaho.
Eagle, Idaho.
Wow.
Eagle, man.
Man, that's something that I find so cool is, that kind of courtesy, right? I mean, people
Mhm.
just, being able to wave and say hello and the tip of the hat and we worked. I guess Gilbert, you and I have worked in remote places where you're kind of driving by small towns and stuff like that, and cars that drive by their vehicle, they wave, even though they don't know
Exactly.
who you are, they have no idea. I mean, you wave from
bet.
vehicle to vehicle.
Yep.
I just find that such a cool courtesy stuff.
Absolutely, man. And you hear about Southern
we need more of that.
hospitality. You hear about that Southern hospitality, but I tell you, out in the West, man, it's people take care of each other.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I've, this past elk season when I broke down up there by that little old town, I was like on the edge. Heck, ain't nobody wanted to bother me. They just wanted to help me, And when they come rolling up on you in the dark night where I'm from, that's bad. That could be bad. Not there. Those people just want to know what the heck he's doing in their town.
Something that is getting lost and it shouldn't, we need more of that nowadays. And
I agree.
Exactly.
Well, next up, guys, it's as Western as it gets with this hard history. Okay. Surrounded by incredible mountains and outdoor paradise, the town is named for a notorious Western trail promoter that created a dangerous shortcut off the Oregon Trail for white settlers traveling through Wyoming and Idaho to Montana gold camps. The trail became the focus of native warriors not too happy with the intrusion into their lands, and the trail was shut down after the infamous Fetterman massacre, one of the worst military disasters ever suffered by the United States Army on the Great Plains. Today, this jumping off spot to Yellowstone is known for world-renowned fly fishing, dramatic mountains for hiking, mountain biking, rock climbing, skiing and hunting, and backpacking in the backcountry exploring in none other than Bozeman, Montana.
Bozeman
Trail.
Montana. When I hear Bozeman, Montana, I just think elk, man.
Yes.
I mean, immediately. I mean, I know so many elk hunters that come out of Bozeman, and it's a jumping off spot right there. And and how it came about off the Oregon Trail and who it's named after. Because Bozeman, the guy that it's named after, he was such a hard dude. A lot of people, they almost changed the name to something else because they didn't like the guy so much, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I've been in Montana several times, and it's a really beautiful state, and but it's like there's nobody there. Like I've told you guys, I had to call my mama because I thought the rapture had come. I was on the road, and I didn't see nobody for 200 miles on the freeway. I'm like, what in the world is going on here?
Right.
But yes, I'm gonna tell you some breathtaking views. I've always wanted to whitetail hunt the Milk River there in Montana, and I know that there's grizzly bears up there too. So, but I'm sure they get along with everybody. So,
yeah, I hope so.
Right. Before its current name, it has been known as Bloomington, Newburgh, and Casey's Landing. Its current name translates from area tribes to mean Fiery Nation. Nestled on the banks of the Mississippi River, along the only place where the north-south river runs east to west, Our next top listening city has been called the Pearl of the Mississippi, in reference to pearl button manufacturing that was once the central economic focus of the city. But it is also nearly as well known as the watermelon capital of the world, and most noted for the melon named after the city, Muscatine melon. So big shout out to Muscatine, Iowa.
Muscatine, Iowa, man. I want a melon, y'all.
Yeah.
I love watermelon, man.
I do too.
Oh
Good.
my
One
God.
of my favorites.
Yeah. And I don't know that I've ever had a muscatine melon, but that's kind of like the Trappistine nuns caramels, you know. We're gonna have to.
Joe, where was that from? Dubuque, Iowa? Is that where the Trappistine?
Iowa, I think.
Dubuque,
Yeah.
I got a text today from a coach at a college in Dubuque, Iowa.
Really?
And we had a conference. Yes, they're recruiting one of our players. We had a conversation about the nuns Trappistine caramels.
Are you
so
serious?
That was pretty cool. She's like, how do you know about the nuns Trappistine caramels?
Right? Oh, let me tell you, lady, we're up and up.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. She said,
right,
well, my
guys,
husband's a big hunter. He'll want to listen to y'all's podcast. So I sent her all the information and everything.
Cool, man. Hope to have him on, man.
No
so
doubt.
Let's jump into today's topic. And this is something that you guys didn't know is how today's topics came about. But it was inspired by a story sent to me from Chad Hashin. I don't know if you guys remember, but Chad Hashin, we had actually talked about him podcasts ago because he is one of our grinders that was successful this last season after listening to the show and going out on his first elk hunt and getting it done. Remember, he sent me a pin and everything like that? Yeah. So I had asked Chad to send me a story, and the story titled Finding the Fire will be posted on our ElkBros website this week. Chad's story, guys, that he wrote without giving away too much, this story was really something that got to me. And I was thinking about doing a certain theme for tonight, and this took me in a totally different direction. So in his story, he talks about, without giving it away and everything there, he talks about listening and being inspired by his grandpa's hunting stories as a kid. And then about a tragedy that had really changed his life. And I mean, in so many ways. His journey, then how he's been trying to find himself, the emptiness that he has found along in that journey, and that search for his reconnection, trying to connect back with the things that really was his passion, but because of the tragedy that happened in his life, it really disconnected him from that. So he decides to try his hand at bow hunting elk, and he finds this podcast by these guys that had about 10 episodes. Those guys were the ElkBros, y'all. And
that's cool.
I can remember getting the GPS pin popping up on my phone and the message from Chad's InReach the morning of September 21st, and the message came in, "Bull down, brother." And at that point, yeah, man, I mean, I was pumped. I was stoked, man. I tried calling him right away and I couldn't get him. I mean, I was just so happy and pumped for Chad because getting it done on his first elk hunt. But I'm not sure if y'all remember Paul Harvey and the rest of the story.
And the rest of the story.
Yeah, that's the rest of the story. Well, at this point,
have a good day.
Yeah, have a good day. Yeah. I'm so pumped for Chad as a successful elk hunter, having an incredible experience that it wasn't until I read his story that I really got to know and understand him on a whole different level. How what he did was more than about a hunt. Chad had found something more. So the inspiration for tonight's show, y'all, like so many people, there's so many stories out there. And unless you're a part of this fraternity, guys like ourselves, gals like ourselves, it's hard for people to really understand how hunting elk in so many ways can be so much more to us. It's hard to explain that, how it can change your life. And like you said before, Gilbert, how it can bring it into focus, or it can hit you in the face with a crappy mop, right?
Yeah.
So I have a little surprise for this, because with this story, I wanted to bring in Chad, and I wanted y'all to meet him.
Hey, Chad, welcome, man.
Chad.
Good to see you.
The
Thank
man,
you,
the
guys.
myth,
Way
the
cool.
legend, Chad Hashin. What's up, my brother?
Hey, Gilbert, nice to see you, man.
Hey, Chad.
Peace.
Hey, Chav, nice to see you as well.
Nice to see you.
Welcome, Chad, man.
Thank
Good to
you,
have
guys.
brother.
Thank you.
That is too
Yeah.
cool, Joe. He didn't tell us nothing about this, bro. I'm
Nope.
telling you, he just sprung it
This-
on us. Like
yeah,
like
this-
I've said many times, you know, I kind of cut him there in the front part of this deal with our intro, but now he's one up me, man. He's always trying to out Waterburger me, man.
You know, we've been trying so many firsts on the show. We've had first, we had all four of us together, all the ElkBros. We had all five of us with Manano on here. We've done the live. We tried to do the live tonight, and I was
Couldn't
really
be done,
hoping
yeah.
because Chad would have actually he was on our live YouTube last week, weren't you, Chad?
Yeah.
Yes, I was. Yep.
Yeah, and it was so cool that he would have been on tonight on the chat, and then coming on live with us as our guest and pulling us in. But I really, Chad, I wanted to thank you, number one, for the story, because you and I have talked quite a bit, and you're not very much like Joe Gillia. In other words, you're not a big talker. You're kind of along the lines of old Chab Chavez back there, right? So I thought you putting yourself out on with this story was pretty special, because it has been a journey for you, hasn't it, bud?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep. And I mean, writing the story, it was part of, it's helped me personally, because it's not something I talk about a lot, being able to get some of those emotions and feelings out and share it with people like you guys that kind of understand, what the things mentally and physically, and then, just everything that goes into hunting an animal like an elk, what that does for you personally, the growth and all that. I couldn't have, don't feel like I could have shared that stuff with a better group of people, honestly. So
Incredibly
I
well
appreciate
said,
you
bro.
guys taking the time to read it. It wasn't a short story by any means.
Oh, no,
thank
man.
you for taking the time to read it and get back to me. I really appreciate that.
Oh man, what an
And-
honor
and-
to have you here,
And
brother.
the guys haven't seen it yet. I've kept it from everybody, because they're going to see it when it comes out on the site with the photos and stuff. You guys saw some of the photos that wasn't
Did.
it yours that
Yes.
had the bees eating in on the meat,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw the pictures
Yeah.
for
Those-
sure.
and-
Congrats
and-
again, dude.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
And for a lot of people that haven't hunted out west and hunted elk, and that don't know about those yellow jackets.
They inspired us this year to get us a tent that's got a screen around it, brother.
Oh,
so we
man.
could just do our butchering in a place where we ain't bothered.
The
You know,
the
and
You had
it
yellow
something
worked out.
similar.
jackets.
You had something similar last year in our camp
That's
for
what I
the
said.
kitchen
It's what-
area, right?
That's what it said. I said
Yeah, man.
it spurred our, us into figuring out those yellow jackets, spurred us into making an adjustment in our camp.
Oh,
That's
Certainly a
absolutely, man.
must.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was fast. I think the yellow jackets were actually on the bull before I got up to them. I mean, it was
Mhm.
probably within 20 minutes they were on him and
Oh,
starting
wow.
to
Yeah,
get
they're
to
pretty
them.
quick.
Yeah.
And they will drill holes into the meat like fast, man.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember, Joe, when we, after we left your bull and came back to camp, got everybody loaded up to come back, those rascals were already on him around his nose and eyes.
Oh, absolutely.
It was
And
crazy.
the thing about them is they don't back down. They're
no.
they're a half-inch long, and they act like they're 6 foot 300 pounds.
They pack a gnarly punch too. I'm allergic to them, so I got to have me some Benadryl in my pack to make sure that if I get popped by one of them, I can handle it.
Yep.
The thing with them is they can keep stinging you. They don't leave a stinger. They can just keep knocking, putting that venom to you.
They just keep biting on you, man. They cut into you. Yeah, they just bite like that. So going back to the story that Chad wrote, like Chad said, it's not a short story, and thank God it's not, because it gives you the full spectrum. And like I said, when I first got to know Chad and his success, I saw him on one level. And when I read this story, and the story, I mean, it starts off as him as a kid, listening to his grandpa, to things that happened in his early 20s, right, Chad? It was early 20s.
Correct.
And how that led him on, a tough road of trying to really figure some things out. Am I right, bud?
Yep. Yeah, I moved around a bunch after the accident. I don't know how much detail you necessarily want to go into about the story, but there was a tragic loss of life. There was people close to me, and after that happened, and I felt responsible for it too. The three of us were together, and I was the only one that didn't pass from the accident. And so trying to get back to the things that I felt were normal took a long time. I mean, I would force myself to go through the motions, I guess, but not really enjoy things. And I knew something was missing. I couldn't really put my finger on what it was, but I think I've now that I've found elk hunting and Western hunting and bow hunting like I have now, I feel like I found what I was looking for without really knowing what it was that I was searching for.
And why do you think that is, Chad?
I think it's something that I can focus on and work for year round, even though the season's only a month long. I also have always taken pride in being slightly different than a lot of people around me, and I don't know a whole lot of people that elk hunt. A lot of people that I did know, or that I do know, I have some relatives and stuff that have gone on some guided elk hunts out west and haven't had a whole lot of success. I had one uncle tell me that hunting elk with a bow was a waste of time. Mm-hmm. So little things like that to be able to have success and prove them wrong is also a little bit of motivation for me, throughout the year. And I honestly feel like pursuing elk is something that's going to make me a better person day in and day out. I'm going to work to be healthier. I'm going to, work to have more discipline in my schedule. Just things like that. Just try to be a better person so that I can put my best foot forward when I am in the elk woods.
And if I may, guys, Chad, I can't thank you enough for opening up this way, especially with us. I am 100% sure that all of us here in this group right now can completely relate to a lot of what you're saying, because in one way or another, we have been through kind of what you went through, and you feel the same way about the hunt that we do. You're in elk camp with us right now, because this is, believe it or not, these conversations take place in elk camp too. And
absolutely,
that's how our brotherhood gets this strong, because
in our bond.
we've come to a level of knowing each other in ways that you don't get to share with a lot of people. And you share passions, you share difficulties, you share struggles. And the cool thing about what I feel blessed about our elk camp is that all of us are in to help each other out, and all of us understand what our struggles are, and all of us are trying to support each other and trying to work through those issues. But what you're saying is so true and so bang on and so eloquently said that it just touches a lot of buttons in my soul, as far as how I felt out on the woods hunting, and the personal challenges and the growth and struggles that we still go through, right? I mean, it's a constant it's a constant battle of becoming a better person and getting through the difficulties of what life have given us. So thank you so much, man, because I can truly appreciate everything that you're saying.
Well, I honestly have to thank you guys, because you guys are, I feel like you guys also preach this message, and that's why I related to, what you guys were putting out there from the very beginning. I could just tell that you were the right kind of guys. These were the dudes that I was going to get advice from and try to do it the way they were doing it. So thank you.
Oh,
Chad,
no,
was
man.
it your first elk that you took? This was your first elk that you took with a bow this
Yes,
past
sir.
year?
Yep.
So how old are you, brother?
37.
37.
Yep.
Well, I started when I was 40. I wished I'd have started when I was 37. I'd just be 3 years, 3 years more awesome, right? But I started when I was 40, and man, I didn't have no business doing it. I can tell you that straight up. But I weighed about 330 pounds. I mean, and hunting where we hunt, I'm gonna tell you straight up, brother, you ain't got no business being in the mountains weighing that. I mean, look, I could dumb into something and probably do okay because I'm a pretty decent archer, right? But at the end of the day, man, it changed my life for several different reasons. But everybody that I've been associated with on this podcast and in our elk camp have all had something broken inside them, right? And I'm telling you, whether it's a relationship with your parent or whether it's a relationship with your wife or whether you've had a sibling pass or something like you've been through that's been a really spiritual awakening and something where you've got to dig deep just to want to open your eyes tomorrow, right? At the end of the day, I tell people all the time, this will change your life. It is spiritual. My wife teases the crap out of me. Is all you guys do is just sit up there on the mountain and cry and hug one another and everything, man? A little Brokeback Mountain going on up there or what? At the end of the day, I tell her, no, that's not it. But it is about filling that void that, we've had things happen to us in our life that even our wives can't fix. Hard to believe, but at the end of the day, it's our brothers like Chav. I mean, so many days I've got to spend in the woods with Chav, the voice of wisdom, right? And look, these guys took me under their wing, brother. And I really didn't feel like it at first it was because I paid them or anything like that. I mean, these guys are true friends, and it wouldn't matter if I drew an elk tag or not. I'm coming to elk camp. I don't give a dang if it hair lips the governor, at the end of the day, I'm coming to elk camp.
We did it a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we did it a couple of years ago. Nobody drew. Chad and Joe had the tag, and we decided to come. Got bear tags and whatever else
Turkey
we could
tag,
scrap. Turkey. I killed a turkey. First time I ever killed a turkey with a bow. So we made lemonade out of with lemons, no doubt.
Yeah.
But
we had such a good time.
Yeah, we had an unbelievable time. We had great food. I mean, when you hang out with the Venezuelan mafia, you're going to get fat on the mountain. I'm going to tell you straight up. And I'm all about that. That comfort food fits me just fine. So
it's mainly Manano. Manano is the master chef.
I try to lose 30 or 40 pounds before I get on the mountain because I'm going to gain it right back. I have a perversion with food, I think, or something, man.
So this is how it went. The first time we went out there, Manano didn't go. And I actually lost 11 pounds on my first trip there.
Then he came back fat the next year.
So the second time I was like, screw this. I'm bringing Manano over. So we brought Manano over, and now I gained a pound when I, after my trip.
Do you have a group of guys that you hunt with, Chad?
Not elk hunting currently, no. Most of my buddies back here, they're eastern deer hunters and waterfowlers, so they're not. If they've got to go more than 200 yards, they're usually jumping on a four-wheeler.
And, he's going through the same thing that I have so many guys that listen to our show that contact us, and they're like, I want what y'all have, and
we're working on that.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. But the thing, like I told Chad and like I've told Mike and like I've told Jason and a lot of guys out there is that, what you do is, like I told people, when you're out there hunting and you come across people out in the woods, you go up and you talk to people. You talk to people in their camps. But a lot of times you end up meeting people while you're out in the field that are so like-minded like you, or you start like I told them, if you could even stalk some of the guys that are listening to our show, man, and you kind of get a feel for what they're like, and just throw them a DM and say, hey, you're hunting by yourself, you're heading out here, and just start heading a conversation. Because people that are, it's kind of like I tell people, when you are trying to find all of the right things by listening to all these different podcasts, what you do is you listen for the similar things, right? And there's a lot of people that listen to the show for a lot of the same reasons. Some guys just want to learn how to kill an elk. Some guys, they really connect with the brotherhood. Some people, connect with that type of rapport, the feeling, and the different things that come out that you can genuinely feel. These are guys that I genuinely love, and that I love spending time with. You got one guy right there that's still in a bed, and he is right now
Just
trying to
whoop
get back
cancer's
in.
ass with a broom. I ain't lying, right?
But Chav, I mean, what you've been going through in the focus, this whole thing is about the way that elk hunting changes your life or changes you as a person, or what you find out about yourself. You know, why for you, Bud, is that grind? I mean, you're focused, you're hitting it, and you're doing all that you can so that you can get back up in the hills, man. And why is that? What is it that is so special about getting up there in the mountains?
Well, it's one of those things that's kind of hard to define, but it's just the spirit out there. You get away from the daily grind of the city, and we live in a pretty rural area ourselves, you and I, but still getting out there. It's you're closer to God, it seems like.
Amen.
And I know now with our hunting partners, I look forward to that 5-10 days that we're together, and they make it extra special. So that's my motivation, because there's days where I just don't feel like getting out of bed, but I know I've got to make the days count, and we'll see how it turns out. But like Chad said earlier, you got something to focus on, even though it's only a 10-day period or a 5-day period. You're working towards that end, where you can actually get out there. There's nothing like getting up early in the morning, seeing the dew on the grass, and then hearing a bull bugle. It's just something so surreal. It's just amazing.
It's
I look forward
majestic.
to it here, so we'll see how it goes. And Chad, thank you for sharing your story. And I think we all have similar stories like that. At times we kind of forget, but in the back of our minds, it's always there. But keep grinding. That's what it's all about. Make lemonade out of lemons, as Joe would say.
Exactly. Chad, did you what brought you to elk hunting altogether? I mean, you being from out east, what brought you to elk hunting altogether?
Actually, I was born in Grand Junction, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Half of my family's still out in Southwest Colorado. So that part of the family always had been around mule deer hunting and elk hunting and stuff growing up. And I just, being a young kid, we would spend summers out there, but I never got a chance to be there during hunting season before my grandfather passed. So
where's home now?
What's that?
Where's home now?
I currently live in Maryland, in Easton, Maryland. So
that's a far cry from
Bay. Yeah,
that's a far cry from Colorado, brother.
Yeah, last year I was living in North Dakota, though. So when I killed the elk, I was driving down from Bismarck, North Dakota to Colorado to hunt.
That's not
bad.
The
area very well.
Yeah.
Luis and I both spent some time up there in North Dakota, brother, working in the oil patch.
There was a point that Chad brought up earlier about how it has, and the ways it has changed him. And what you mentioned is something that there's not a single person on here tonight that doesn't feel that same thing, that, well, I've got to get in shape I got to do better about how I eat. I got to do better about my practice. I got to do better on preparing my body, my mind. I mean, it's because what's so cool about the elk hunt is there's no enabling, there's no awards, there's no excuses. It's you and what you do and what you don't do. You can, we did a piece on no excuse elk hunting. You make all the excuses in the world, but at the end of the day, if you're that lion that has to eat and you don't kill it, you ain't eating, and if you don't prepare yourself in that amount of time to get there and you show up and you're not able to go, that is nobody's fault but your own. And I think that's, Luis, Luis, the first year I met Luis, man, I tell you what, he just blew me away, and just incredible attitude, positive. Him and Manano both, they're just incredible human beings. They suck about everything else, but they're great human beings, right?
Thank you, Joe. I love you, brother. I love you, brother.
But
you can't wear your feelings on your sleeve around here, Chad. I'm gonna tell you right now.
And the next year, when he came back to elk camp, he had so many great encounters. Well, the next year when he came, he wasn't as in a good a shape as he was that first year. And I don't know. I
wasn't in a very good shape the first year either. So I was in even worse shape the
Maybe
second
Joe
year.
was in bad shape. Who knows, man? He'll never admit it.
So I made how we are at camp. I made a little comment or something like that, and dude, this guy like what? He called me out? It's like
Yeah.
But instead of crying and like, oh, Joe Julia sucks and the hunt, it was all these excuses, dude, the following year, man, we're getting all this stuff about how he's running and how he's doing this, and he went down to fighter weight, seriously.
Yeah.
And he showed up in incredible shape,
Yep.
and the same thing with Gilbert. The first time I met Gilbert, he's 3 1/4,
Yep.
maybe a little more than that. And,
Yep.
and he's like, Joe, I want to hunt with you. I'm like, bro, it ain't going to do any good for you to hunt with me, man. And we had a conversation about that. And you know what? The conversation with Gilbert, yeah, it might have been a little bit about elk hunting, but if there is not a man on this group, and I'm not including me in this because I'm looking at these people out there, and Manano included. I hope Manano hears this, that these are incredible fathers here. I have never seen better fathers. And, Gilbert's kids, Logan and Lacey, and Chav, my niece, is like my daughter, and you see pictures of Luis with Sophia, and now, man, Sabrina's coming up, man.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be long, and the things that they do and what they share with their kids. Well, what I told Gilbert was this guy was on CPAP, he was on all kinds of medication, and I was like, dude, man, I thought you loved your kids, and he's like, dude, I love my kids more than anything. And I'm like, you ain't going to be there to see them grow old, man.
He was right. He was 100% right. Kind of like my wife. I don't like it when she's right, but dadgummit, she's right 90% of the time. And
Yeah.
Joe was,
Yeah.
and it hit me in the face like a crappy mop, I'm telling you, I come back home and I said, all right, ain't nobody going to talk to me like that. Right. So I'm that kind of guy. All my coaches I had needed to hit me over the head with a 2x4 to get me to budge, because I'm a little hard headed. But at the end of the day, man, once you get me going in that mode, it's pretty cool. So show back
little
up
is a bit of an understatement, but yeah. We get the point.
I show back up to elk camp at about 260, 270. I'm about 268 right now. So, I want to be around 240 when I get to elk camp. So we got some work to do, but it ain't nothing that I'm not done.
I got $100 in a scale that says you don't have it, man.
Man, you get that C note ready, Joe. You can leave that scale at home, but you can bring that C note with you.
I have $100 in the scale that he won't lose any weight at camp.
No, I know that
yeah.
one.
I don't think
ain't
that'll
betting you.
happen, man.
I ain't
I
betting
don't
you
think
because
that'll happen.
Manano gets that food rape going and everything, man. And he
Food
no
rape.
means no, and he just keeps piling it on your plate, and you're like,
Oh, dude.
Manano,
He's,
no
he-
means no.
he's like that bipolar grandma, man. Just keeps saying, "You got to eat more. You got to eat more." Right?
No
He's
doubt.
just like, yeah.
So
no,
Chad, did you kill your bull in Colorado?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Yeah, he did.
Public land, huh?
Yep. It was an over the counter unit, and this year it went to draw. But
That's so. Oh,
I
it
got
did.
I got the inReach pin September 21st at
That's so
9:45
cool,
in the morning, man. And he had gotten it done.
I
Hey,
bet
Chad,
you can replay every second of it in your mind.
And that's exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Did you
Oh,
mind
yeah.
sharing with us those moments? I mean,
Yeah.
and because one of the things, we're talking about, what is it? What is it about the hunt? And Chav hit it on the dot there as far as that spiritual connection. Disconnecting, unplugging from the real world for a while, and just the smell of the nature and the mighty of all these animals, and just being out in the woods. I definitely love all of that, but also the thrill of that encounter, of that opportunity when it presents itself, being so close to these animals. That just at least in my experience, I can't even breathe at times, and that emotion imprints memories in my head that just so vividly I can relive time over and over in time, and just building those memories, and also the memories at camp, the conversations like this that take place at camp that makes us feel more human. So those are the things that kind of drive me. But because of the feeling of when I take a shot, or when I have an opportunity, or when I have an encounter, because of what I feel, that's why I'm asking you, what did you feel? What
Yeah,
was
lay
it
the
about
story
that
on
moment?
us, man.
Yeah.
Let us know how it went down.
Give us details.
Don't leave
details.
nothing out, too. we want the whole thing, man. I'm kind of like a bunch of boys talking about a girl. Come on with it.
Well, I had a few encounters before I actually got a shot off, and each time that I got within range of a bull and drew back, kind of like what you're saying, I couldn't breathe. Like, I had probably just got done running the last few hundred yards to get into position, and trying to find somewhere to hide. Am I going to put my
being
decoy
aggressive,
out?
yeah.
And so I get drawn back on these previous bulls before the one I harvested, and every single one of them, he would get to the edge of the cover. I was waiting for him to clear, and his head would turn and look in my direction, and he would freeze. Just his nose and snout would be past the brush, and there I'd be at full draw, no shot. And, after 90 seconds or whatever, I'd have to let down and he'd wander off. And that happened 2 or 3 times. And there was actually one bull that I chased for like 5 days in a row, a pretty decent 6-point that I kept having encounters with almost every day. And so the morning where I actually harvested my elk, I had went into an area that I hadn't hunted for about 10 days. So I was out there for 17 days actually hunting before I harvested this elk.
Die hard, man.
Wow.
And I went back up into this area, had kind of worked the edge of some drainages, calling that morning. I hadn't heard really anything that I could confirm was an elk. I hadn't even seen any elk that morning. I had seen fresh tracks from another hunter, so I was a little discouraged that maybe there had been some pressure in there the day before. So I kind of made my way around the area that I was planning on hunting that morning, and was thinking about going back to my truck and maybe going to a different spot, because I hadn't really had much luck. And I kind of did another, what I call a Joe Gillia party, where I just make a bunch of noise. I try to sound like some cows, and maybe try to sound like a couple different bulls getting aggressive with one another, just making it sound like there was something going on when I was the only one up there. And I stood around for probably 5 or 10 minutes waiting and listening, wasn't really hearing anything. And I was like, man, guess I'm going to have to head back down the trail. And almost immediately after I thought that, I heard a loud snap behind me over my left shoulder. And as I started to turn, hooves were thundering the other direction. Like he started trotting away. And I caught the antlers. As I turned around, I could see his last tine sweeping back. And in Colorado, you guys probably know it has to be a 4-point bull in the over-the-counter units to be legal. So that's what I had been waiting for. I was going to take the first legal bull I had a good shot at. And he goes behind some oak brush, and I immediately just start cow calling. I had the reed in my mouth, so I started calling almost instinctively. I was like, I don't know what to do. I got to try to slow him down. So I started cow calling. He got behind some oak brush, was kind of glancing through it. I grabbed an arrow out of my quiver and nocked it. And when I did that, I saw that arrow was one that I had shot at a bear the previous evening, and it was kind of messed up. So I had to grab that one off and throw it on the ground. And then I knocked another arrow.
Chav, this sounds like you, dude.
Clipped up my release after knocking the second arrow. And after I clipped my release, I realized that my sight wasn't set. I had a single pin adjustable sight on my bow at the time last season, and I had taken a spill on my way in that morning. And it had reset past the 0 yardage limit. So I was like, well, I can't do a holdover when I don't even know what my pin's set at. So I had to unclip my release. And this whole time, this bull's just staring at me through the oak brush, and I'm continuing to cow call. I'm like, I can't believe this thing's not running away, but I have to do this if I'm going to shoot. So I cranked the dial up to 50 because I had ranged the bush as he was kind of making his way around before I knocked that arrow, the first arrow, and cranked the dial up to 50. And he started coming to the edge where he was going to step out into a clearing, and his whole body was going to be exposed. And I honestly thought he was going to freeze like the other bulls had done previously. But I drew back and waited, and he kept coming. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And he stepped out completely. His whole body was exposed. The brush was covering up his legs from about his belly down, but I could see his whole body. So I picked the spot, right there, 3-4 inches behind the crease, and let it fly. I didn't see the arrow, but I did hear a light thump thump, and saw the elk kind of take off. I kept cow calling after I shot. He probably went about 60 or 70 yards and put his head down briefly, and then went another 30 yards, and I saw him lay down in some aspens. And I'm shaking. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I told myself I had to sit down and give it like a half hour, right? That's what I told myself, but it probably wasn't 10 minutes, and I was up looking for my arrow. And never found my arrow, but I found a small speck of blood on just a dead log. And it took me a while to find any other blood, but I kind of just started working my way back and forth in the direction that he headed in. Found some more blood on the brush and grass that was a little bit higher, about the height of his belly. Followed that it was not even 100 yards, I don't think, and that's where he was laying down in some aspens.
Wow.
And complete pass through. So it was awesome. I took a few pictures in a haste and a video as I walked up to him. For some reason, my phone didn't save the video, and the pictures aren't that great because I got overwhelmed and wanted to start breaking him down, but it was amazing. All 17 days, the experience was awesome. I saw bears almost every day I was out. I'd never seen a bear before the trip. I'd never heard an elk bugle before then. So all this stuff was new, and to be able to come out of there with heavy pack was amazing. It was awesome.
Coming out heavy. Absolutely, man. And I remember you saying something like, guys, I don't know if you remember, but he had written things on his veins. What was that all about, Chad?
Actually, I had my grandfather's nickname Dutch was on one arrow. I had my buddies that I lost in the accident, their initials were on another arrow. I had some other friends that were injured in North Dakota that had planned. An older buddy of mine, he wanted to go elk hunting. He got hurt and couldn't go. I wrote his initials on one, then I had your guys' initials on one, and it was just for motivation. I'd get tired or start wanting to give up and go back to the truck or whatever, and I just look down and think like, oh man, I'm gonna give it a little bit more. So it was just something to remind me to keep going.
Cool. It's very cool to it's a very, great way to keep your spiritual connection with your hunt and that I thought when I saw the pictures and Joe shared them with us, I was like, man, that's so freaking awesome.
You
It's
basically he basically took his crew with him.
Yep.
yeah,
He did have his group with him, and
yeah,
we do that a lot of times. We talk about Carl all the time, how he's hunting with us, and that was way cool, Chad. And your whole journey. I'm excited for people to read the story. I'm excited to see you on your journey from here. And man, welcome to ElkBros. That's all I can tell you, man. I mean,
elk camp.
I hope you felt like you were here with us, and I hope you feel like part of this group right here, just being with us right now. Because, buddy, I mean, you fit right in perfectly with us. Absolutely.
I appreciate that, Joe, and I do, man. That's like I said earlier. That's one reason why I listen to you guys' podcast Tuesday morning, drinking coffee. I'm usually done before you post about it on Instagram that morning. It's a routine. I mean, I feel like I'm in camp when I'm listening, and you guys talking about being coaches. It's obvious that you want to see other people be successful. That's something that I really appreciate too. So I can't thank you guys enough.
You bet you, man.
Hey, man, and I was going to say, you got our emails, you have our contact informations,
Stay in touch.
please know you can always reach out to us. I don't have much to teach, but hey, I make a lot of fun of Manano, and I make people laugh doing that. So, I'm in for a good laugh and any conversation. So it's anything I can ever help. And, I'm sure we're all more than glad to help out, and we'll learn together.
And that's one thing that I hope a lot of people get from that is Chad. He would email and I called him a few times, and guy, you got responses immediately, pretty much. From
Yep.
And it's because we're all elk hunters. We're all in this together, and sure loved you allowing us to be a part of your journey.
Seriously, guys, I can't thank each one of you enough, and I am going to reach out to all you guys too. So thank you for that offer, Luis. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, brother.
Awesome. Most people don't know that Gilbert, we had technical issues before because of a storm that went through, and it knocked out his power at his house. And it just happened again. He just had another storm come through and knock out his power. So he's trying to connect to us now. Yeah, he's trying to connect by his phone over there. So, Chad, we're gonna say adios to you for tonight, but it's definitely not going to be the last time that we all talk, man. So, looking forward to a lot of stories, bud. And take care and keep us informed.
Right.
Thank you. You guys all take care too. It was good talking to you, Luis, Chav, Joe, Gilbert. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you.
Take care, brother.
Pleasure, brother.
Thanks for coming in.
Yep.
Awesome, bud. We'll see you down the mountain.
Sounds good.
So, wasn't that awesome?
That
That was pretty cool, Joe.
Yeah.
Very
was
cool.
awesome.
Incredible guy. I mean, you can just tell the kind of person he is right away, so
Absolutely. And I hope you guys that are listening out there got a feel for a lot of that, and how much and the reasons that this is so special to so many people. That's just one of the examples of the stories. There's so many stories out there. You have your story. We have our story. And a lot of people don't understand how this means so much to us, because if it wasn't for the elk hunt, like I said, man, there's no enabling, there's no awards, there's no excuses. We just go and get it done out there.
And there's Gilbert.
Yeah, there's Gilbert. He's back with us, man.
Yeah, I made it up. I had to go get back in my truck, guys. It's a bad lightning storm here. I don't know why my power kicked out. I hated missing the last half of Chad's story, but it's somehow I don't believe it'll be the last time I get to hear it.
No,
I've told you before, Gilbert, there are better hoods out there, where at least they keep the electricity and so on and so forth.
So let's go to our ElkBros mailbox. We had planned for some live questions, but we also had some questions that came in, and the first one is from Jason from Ripley, West Virginia, and Jason's question was, how do you decide which bugle to chase?
Can I answer that one, Joe?
Yeah, jump on it, man.
All of them. I know the answer to that one.
For me, it's all about the wind, Joe. You know, got to have the wind in the right position to be able to figure out if you're going to go after him or not. You know, and then know if he's already up top. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that go into whether we're going to go chase a bugle. But yeah, if you hear one and you know you can get to him and the wind's right, you got to go. Got to go figure it out.
So what if you have 3 bugles? Let's say you got one in front and you got one out to the right, you got one out to the left. How do you decide which one of those boogers to go for?
And the more I read that question, that's the scenario that I was thinking. That's probably what he meant. It's like, okay, well, you got different bugles coming in different directions, and so what do you do now? And I think at that point is you go back to what Gilbert said. You know, you play the wind first, and then you kind of evaluate, and then obviously evaluate the terrain. And if you know the area, you know what's where you're headed, and how are you going to approach that elk, making sure the wind is the right, you know, in your favor. So I don't know. It's a tough one for sure. I hope that's the situation more often, to where we have to decide which bugle to chase.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But for the
problem
sake of,
you want to have.
Yeah, for the sake of all the variables, man, let's say that we pretty much have the same terrain in front of us. All those bulls are bugling because none of them have smelled us, so we ain't got no problem with the wind. But we have one bull out in front. We got one bull that's probably another 200, 300 yards to the right of that bull. We got another bull that's probably another 200, 300 yards to the left of the middle bull over there. You know, Chad, what would you do to decide which bull to go after?
Well, you know, like Gilbert mentioned, you know, the wind is the biggest factor.
Mm-hmm.
If it so happens that 2 or more of the bulls are wind right, so to speak, just go after the closest one, and then you know, go from there.
Yeah. So why are you thinking going after the closest one?
Well, you really can't tell which one's the bigger one if that's what you're after. I know sometimes we followed what we thought were large bulls because of the way they sounded, and they weren't necessarily that large. Sometimes you'll hear like a little squeak, and you'll think it's a spike or a raghorn, and it ends up being the biggest bull you've ever seen. So it's, as far as going after a certain type of bull, the bugle won't really let you know that.
Right.
Then again, if you know, you try and get what you can, so you know, go to the nearest one. But if you do find one that's really loud, boisterous, and is coming in, that might change your mind as far as a setup goes. You know, you might bypass one to get to that one because that one's coming in.
Right.
That
one may just be a satellite that's just there.
That's right.
Really more curious than interested.
Yeah, that's right. The day I killed my big bull, there were 5 other bulls there that didn't sound off, and he was the one making all the noise, and I almost shot a cow. If he wouldn't have bugled, I'd have never known he was there, you know. But these other bulls had already passed in front of us. For me, and we had that all morning. We had bulls in front of us all morning, closer ones, further away, but we just knew that they just kept moving, and we kept moving with them. We actually got the wind right. At a couple of times, the wind wasn't right. So we kind of had to suspend all activities until we got the right type of wind before we moved on them, you know. I think that's crucial. I think a lot of guys make the mistake, or the wind swirls on them, and it alerts those animals that they're there, and they shut up, right? They think, well, they ran off. Well, yeah, they ran off for a reason. They're not there because, you know, the little gust from the gods or something. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's the wind that beats you.
Yeah. And so some of the things that you hit it right on the head when you were talking about all the variables, Gilbert. But one thing I like to tell people is that, remember, elk hunting is about, number one, creating opportunities, number two, finishing, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
the more opportunities you have, the better. So, like Chav said, you're going to go to the closest one because you end up blowing that on that one and you got other bulls, going. Now you got, plan B comes in, plan C comes in. But if you start to work and you have a bull that's responding and that bull's hot and that bull's coming to you, now that bull's going to make up for the distance where you got to go to another one. Again, you get a chance to work that opportunity. And if it doesn't work out, then you have another one in the pocket, right? So
That's right.
the other thing that you got to think about is this too. When you're listening to it, you got to listen to what's going on, because if you have multiple bulls bugling, that means that there's a bull with a hot cow, right? So if that's the case, then, and you listen to how that's going, is it the bull all the way on the left and that one is acting like a bull that has a hot cow? He's making those sounds, he's doing those he's doing the displaying calls, he's doing maybe a roundup or something like that. Do you hear cows in the situation, or are you still that far out? And are these other bulls, how are they reacting? What kind of bugles are they doing? You know, are they satellites moving in on a herd bull, or are they bulls with their own cows too? You try to kind of figure out the situation a little bit, because if you end up with a herd bull and you got some satellite bulls, like that time Gilbert talked about, that they came in on a park muzzleloader hunting, and man, all these bulls are out in the middle that have all those cows out there, and there's all these satellites on the outside. All they had to do was make a chirp, man, and boom, here comes that satellite, because he's like, yeah, that's mine. I call that one, right? So a lot of times, if you read the situation, that you're going to come in and play the situation. It's not, I would tell you, number one, first of all, it's the closest one that you can deal with that's going to play. If it's not, you read what's going on, and as you move in on the situation, you play the scenario. If you've got a hot bull, are you going to go after the herd bull, or are you going to go after one of the satellites? Us, we're going to work a satellite, because we're going to go after that first bull and get that one, and we're going to try to put a bull on the ground. If you're trying to trophy hunt it, now you got to bugle yourself through those satellites to get at that trophy bull. So it just depends on that situation. But Chav hit it on the head, man. We're going to work the closest, or we're going to work the one that wants to play first, and we're going to keep those other ones in the pocket. If that doesn't deal out, then we're going to go that way. Okay. We have one from Steven Jensen from Seattle, Washington. It says, I have bow hunted deer for a few years, but now I plan on going on my first elk hunt. My current setup is a Matthews bow, and I really like it. I currently pull 60 pounds, but I believe my bow can go to 70. Is 60 pounds good enough for elk, or do I need to consider cranking the weight up?
I think it depends of how he feels with the weight. If the 70 pounds he thinks is going to actually be a little bit of a struggle for him, that is going to jeopardize his form and his ability to smoothly draw and put it where he needs to put it, then I wouldn't make the jump. With regards to the poundage for killing elk, yeah, I mean, we all shoot 70 pounds, and definitely, the more poundage the better in that front, I would say. But I think 60 pounds is something that absolutely has the ability to kill any elk. But I mean, I learned all of this from you guys and you, Gilbert. I mean, so I'm sure you got way more insight on that than I do.
For me, what the 70 pounds would do for him is flatten his trajectory, right? So I'm not so much worried about his KE, because it's going to be really good with 60 pounds and a heavy arrow. What I would suggest him to do would be heavy up that arrow, go to a full metal jacket, use a good cut on contact broadhead, and go back and watch our shot placement podcast on YouTube, because I don't care if you hit him with 50 pounds, you're going to blow through both that area. You're going to blow through that area, hit both lungs, with your setup. But if you, guys ask me all the time, should I get it to 70 pounds? And I tell guys all the time, if you can't draw that bow back with your feet off the floor, right, like sitting on a bucket or with your feet off the floor, then you've got too much draw weight. But it's pretty simple. You got 3 months now to, before we're going to be in the woods. It's pretty simple to sit in front of your TV at night and watch Bosch or whatever y'all are watching on Netflix, put your target in front of you, load an arrow up, and every week make a crank, right? Every week, just one crank. In 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to be up to 70 pounds. I promise you, it's not that hard to get there if you do that. And you impart that in your training regimen where you're drawing your bow back. If you want to get to 70, what 70 does, it takes you from shooting a 20, 30, 40 yard pin, or maybe even, a 20, a 10, 20, 30, it takes and flattens that out where you can use one pin just about to shoot all the way to 30 yards, one pin to 40, one pin to 50. It flattens that trajectory out so we don't have such a loop in that arrow when we send it. Because a lot of times when we're hunting, we gotta make sure we can get over something or under something, and the trajectory is much better when it's a flatter plane. If you follow what
I would even say give it a try at 65 and see how you feel.
So that's
just
where I was going to go. It doesn't,
you build up to it.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a jump from 60 to 70 like Luis is telling you, the 65. And here's the reason I tell you to work towards at least 65. If you can get to the 70, great, but at least 65. And the reason I say that is, if you hit that spot that we're talking about, you're golden, right? But crap happens, and we preach not to take marginal shots, but you can be on an animal and have a perfect setup shot, and right as you squeeze that button, that animal turns, he takes a step, he does something, and now a perfect shot can become a marginal shot. So what if that animal has turned some? Now you end up hitting them back behind the rib or something like that, and now at least you have more behind that to push through more of that animal and hopefully help mitigate that marginal shot.
Yeah, so you're minimizing potential, I guess, issues there. The stuff that's going to happen with 70 pounds as well, right? But we're just trying to give yourself just a slight advantage on minimizing situations like that, for sure.
Right. But you can actually, the difference between 60 and 65 might be blowing through a rib rather than deflecting and causing it to come. There's other things that can happen with that. Or you hit that animal behind the shoulder, you hit it in the sweet spot, and it comes out the other side instead of just setting up inside that animal, right? And so we want 2 holes, and all I'm telling you is the more that you can put on that, if you can put 65 on that, that's going to help you as far as mitigating some of those bad shots. All right. I think we're going to, let's do this last one. We're going to do this last one, and then we'll get out of here. Kelly from Goodyear, Arizona. Man, we had Washington, Virginia, West Virginia, and Arizona. Kelly says, how important is it for your rangefinder to be spot on, and how do you use it in the heat of the moment? I want to do something because I'm the guy that doesn't use the rangefinder here. But I see guys with rangefinders all the time. Then I'm gonna let the rangefinder guys talk about how they use it in the heat of the moment. But here's what I want to throw out there before the pin shooters do it, is that I've seen guys that have the rangefinder that will be 3 yards, 4 yards difference from my rangefinder, right? It might be, it might not be calibrated the same as mine, but that's not important. What's important is that's your rangefinder, and that's what you practice with, so that you're used to whatever that range is giving you, because that's locked into whatever your pins are. You don't, now, if it's is calibrated off, you don't want to be asking somebody else to give you range if it's different. You want to be using your rangefinder. But here's what I wanted to tell you is that I think too many people depend on their rangefinder, especially for things that get close and tight in the heat of the moment. You might not have that, and you have actually just restricted yourself. So what I would tell all of y'all that are pin shooters is, during your practice, when I talk about getting uncomfortable, is get out there and know your 30, throw that rangefinder over on the side, know your 40, know your 30, know your 20, right? Shoot that 30, shoot that 20, shoot that 10, shoot that 40, shoot that 30, shoot that 20. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your arrows, you're not going to know what any of your marks are, and you're going to start walking from your target back, and you're going to throw arrows out. You're just going to toss them, and you're going to go pick up that first arrow. You're going to turn around, shoot it at your target without ranging it, so that you get used to judging that distance from having shot your 20, your 30, and your 40 so much. Okay, get so that you now, especially from 30 in, if you struggle with 40, cool. But if you're 30 in, man, you should be able to judge that distance out there, because most of you guys, I think, from 30 to 20 is what? That much, right?
Yeah, maybe 4.5, 5 inches.
That much? Is it that much?
Sometimes.
Yeah, about that
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, man, is if you will do this, practice throwing and tossing and then shooting, get used to judging that in your mind. So now you get in a tight situation, that critter's coming through, you know that bull's at 20, man. He might be at 25, but you're putting that 20 pin right there in that spot. Boom, you're popping that thing. And because you might end up in a situation where now you're trying to think about getting a range and trying to get that down, now getting on and pulling back, you might not have that time, and then that's an opportunity missed. So that's all I'm going to tell you is do more of that actual judging without it to be ready for the heat of the moment as well. So you guys, how do you guys handle your rangefinders in the heat of the moment?
Yeah, Joe, for me, I don't do it in the heat of the moment. So at the end of the day, when we're setting up on a bull and he's coming, my first range is I want to know where 30 yards is, right? So I'm going to range an object that's 30 yards from there. So I know when that bull gets to that, you're setting up with your cover to your back and you're out front. I'm going to find where 30, 40, and 50 is. And really, it doesn't matter where anything inside of that 30. Anything in that side of that 30, I could put my 20 or my 30-yard pin on it, and I'm going to be golden. I'm going to tell you right now, if I hit within 4 inches of where I'm aiming, he's in dire straits, right? I mean, because I'm middle to just a little upper in that zone, and if I'm 4 inches low, it's still catching both lungs, right? So at the end of the day, I'm not so worried about inside of 30. I just need to know where 30 is. And what makes the mountains hard is the undulation that you have, right? And some of the corridors you have to shoot down. So a lot of times something appears a lot closer than it is, and it's actually further away, which happened to Brendan this year. He actually thought a bull was a whole lot closer to him than he actually was. He shot him for 40 and the bull's almost 70, so, but it was that corridor that he looked down at. He thought the bull was a lot closer, and he may have even ranged that bull at that distance. But for me, it's about ranging objects in front of me. Same thing when I'm stand hunting for whitetails. I range objects in front of me. I know when that whitetail walks in, if he walks by that tree's at 32 yards. And as he cuts the distance, I know exactly where I'm going to put my pin. It's no
Gilbert,
different
what
for
happens
me.
what happens if you're out there and all of a sudden a bull shows up and he's walking across at 40? What are you doing? And so this isn't a setup. You're moving through the woods, and there's been calling. All of a sudden, you see the horns coming through the trees at 40. What are you doing?
Well, you got to make a call then. But I'm going to tell you, as an ethical elk hunter, for me, I'm not shooting that bull if I don't know how far he is.
Okay, I agree with you. So do you grab your rangefinder and range him as he's walking through?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, well, he normally has chav ranging for him.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
At 40, Joe, inside of 30, I'm pretty good, right? I feel like if that bull's 32, 33 yards, I'm going to judge him for that. But it's out past 40, 40 and beyond, it can get kind of dicey because of the terrain.
Yeah. Well, because
Yeah,
but
I know rangefinders can lie to you too, right?
Yes.
Yes,
it's easy to.
I've never had that problem. You know,
well, it's easy. It
unless
depends
I was
on the
ranging
terrain.
downhill. Yeah.
If you got a limb or something and you range and you hit a little limb or something like that, hey, it happens, right? But that's why
a blade of grass.
Yeah, or even sometimes even like a dusk, like different lighting may cause some of those rangefinders to kind of slightly malfunction, and some dark backgrounds also. It would be to where you click and you can't read.
Look,
all of those have happened to me before. So back to your point, Joe, of practicing, if just visually kind of getting comfortable with, judging distances is super important. I've always, I've said it before, I guess here, that if you're in a stand, if you're in a setup, then yes, like Gilbert said, it's easy to kind of get a mental map by getting distances of reference points, trees that are in certain areas that and then that now you kind of know where things are. Dynamically, elk hunting, different deal. Also, because of what Gilbert said with regards to the topography, the distances are deceiving.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, and look, like Joe said, a big stalk of something, a Soto stalk, whatever it could be sticking up in your way. Chad, we had a bull come out. I knew that bull was about it. It had to be at least 50. And Chad ranged him. And he told me 18, and I'm like, I looked at him. I'm at full draw, and I looked at him, and I went, 18. He's like, yeah, that's what I said. Move over to the right a little bit. I looked out there, and I could see that stalk sticking up right in line with where he's ranging. He moved over a little bit. He goes, 58. Poof! And I cut that thing loose, dude, and the rest was history.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 18. I can hear that thing clicking, click, 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 click. I'm like, Chav, how far is he? He's like, 18. I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
so Chav,
it's a good tool, but not something to fully rely on. You have to have some of that judging practice for sure.
Well, Chav, I could have moved. Chav, I could have sworn I heard a bunch of clicking this year too when you were ranging for Gilbert. What was going on there?
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure I had a.
Well, I'm asking him the whole time. I'm at full draw, holding, and I'm like, "How far, Chav? How far? How far?" He's tick, 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 tick. And he goes, 38. I'm like, I'm good. Let's get him, man.
There we go. All right,
no
guys.
doubt. That rangefinder is a deal. You got to practice with it.
Hey, everybody out there, man, if you like what we're doing, if you enjoyed the show tonight, please go on subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on iTunes. Rate and review us. We would appreciate that. You have to go to Apple Podcasts or iTunes to do it. And if you want to read tonight's story that is going to be on there from Chad Hashin, go to ElkBros.com, right? And a reminder, if you have any questions like these were great questions tonight that you want to hear answered on the show, just send those questions in to info@ElkBros.com.
You betcha. Fantastic show tonight, guys. I'm sorry I've kind of threw a hiccup into everything. Coming to you from stormy spring Texas out here. I'm telling you, we got the lightning going tonight and the hail and all the power outages and everything, but we figured out how to get it done. Like our brother and our elk hunting coach Joe Gillia says, where there's a will, there's a way, and we figured out how to get it done. Fellas, y'all be safe. Like I always say, man, this social distancing, we're starting to be able to come together a little bit. So husbands, hug your wives. Wives, hug your husbands. Kiss your babies. Keep your broad heads sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Good night, everybody. Peace.
Peace.